Hey everybody, welcome to the Waldock Way. I'm Jessica. Today you're going to be joining us for our morning basket time. I'm collaborating with Abby from Rooted and Rest and Ashlee from Grace and Grit, and they're going to be sharing their morning time with you guys as well today. If you are coming over here after already watching them, hello and welcome, and I hope you enjoy our morning basket time. And if you are new, you decide to stick around. If you are not new, I hope you go check them out. I will leave the links to their channels in the description box down below. And let's go ahead and get started with morning basket time. All right, are you ready for our devotion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. A whole new you. If anyone belongs to Christ, then he is made new. The old things have gone. Everything is made new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Take a look at your hand. It's not just holding this book. It's actually very busy making new skin cells. The top layer of the skin, the part you see, is called the epidermis. And it is made up of skin cells. Lots and lots of them. Scientists think you have about 1.6 trillion skin cells throughout your body. Depending on how big you are, of course, new skin cells are constantly being made at the bottom of your epidermis, and they move up to the top of your epidermis in a trip that takes them about a month. When they reach the top, they quickly die and fall away. In fact, you lose about 30,000 to 40,000 dead skin cells every minute. So in the time it's taken you to read this, you've probably already lost 35,000 skin cells already. Don't worry, your body replaces the dead ones with new ones just as fast. No wonder you're tired. Your skin isn't the only part of you that God is making new. When you decide to follow Him, God takes your heart, your mind, and your spirit and begins making them new too. It doesn't happen all at once or even in a month. It's a change that happens your whole life through. But each day, God helps you get rid of your old, dead, selfish ways. He teaches you to become more like Jesus, instead sharing God's love and joy with everyone around you. All right, trivia time. Ooh, the truth about cats and dogs. At night, a pet cat can see how many times better than you? 2, 6, 10, or 20?
10. I need 20.
You think 20 times better than you? All right, let's see. 6 times. After the death of a pet cat, some ancient Egyptians showed respect by doing what? Shaving off their eyebrows, wearing black clothes, not talking for 10 days, or lighting candles. Shaving off their eyebrows. Why do cats get stuck in trees? They like the view, they're afraid of heights, their claws point the wrong way to climb down, or they can't see the way down.
They can't see the way down.
Their claws point the wrong way to climb down because the way they point. True or false? Most cats are born with blue eyes.
True.
That is true. When kittens are born, they don't have much pigment that darkens their eyes. They change after a few weeks, so most cats turn green later on, but they are born with blue eyes. I'm going to go ahead and read our poem for today. You can keep eating. All right, today's is called Brush's Rule by Constance Andrea Creams. Time was when fingers did the trick. Pat this, part that, do it quick. The hair's no simple thing today. You have to gel, highlight, spray. You need a brush to get things right. A comb will only tug and bite. The problem is which brush to use. There are a million ones to choose. The penny pocket model's fine for simply keeping things in line. But whirly spikes and curls call for a brush that does a whole lot more. Short tips, long tips, flat brush or round. The possibilities astound. If you want to go deluxe, beware you'll have to pay big bucks. Confused and want to shave your head? Relax and ponder this instead. Plain or fancy, plastic, wood, a brush will keep you looking good. So then tomorrow we'll read about the invention of the brush.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Okay. So today's mistake that worked is Coca-Cola. Which is funny because that's what Daddy reads, right? Okay. So what you can build while I'm reading it. The date was May 8, 1886. The Civil War had been over for 21 years. Grover Cleveland was President of the United States. And in Atlanta, Georgia, a pharmacist named John Pemberton was busy in his backyard. Using a boat oar to stir, Pemberton cooked up a mixture in a brass kettle heated over an open fire. When he finished, he had a new medicine to relieve exhaustion in the nerves and soothe headaches. Pemberton took his new medicine to the Jacobs Pharmacy, and he instructed Venable, his assistant, to mix the syrup with water and chill it with ice. They tasted it and agreed it was delicious, but when Venable mixed another glass, he accidentally added carbonated water instead of plain water. So do you know what the difference in carbonated and plain water is?
Carbonated water is water that's kind of like soda because it has the soda bubbles. And regular water is like the water we drink now.
Yeah, so if he put carbonated water in it instead of plain water, what would have happened to the medicine?
It would make it soda.
Yeah, it makes it like soda, right? Like bubbly. So that's what so the medicine that he made accidentally became like bubbly because of the kind of water he put in it. Okay. This time, the men became excited. They decided that instead of offering the beverage as a headache remedy, they would sell it as a fountain drink, an alternative to ginger ale and root beer. They named it Coca-Cola after the cocoa leaves and cola nuts it contained. In 1886, Coca-Cola's sales averaged 9 drinks a day. According to the Coca-Cola Company, Pemberton sold 25 gallons of syrup that first year, and he took in $50, but he spent $73 on advertising. So does that mean he made any money? No, he was in the negative, right? Because he spent more than he made. Exactly. People in 155 countries drink 393 million Coca-Cola soft drinks every day. Pemberton's invention is not famous as a headache remedy or exhaustion relief. Instead, it is now one of the world's most favorite beverages. So isn't that cool? It was a mistake that ended up being one of the most popular beverages in the whole world. Yeah.
Oh,
and who do we know that loves Coke?
Daddy.
Yes. Daddy loves him some Coke. All right. Do you want to read our Who Was book or our Magic Treehouse book today? First today. Okay. We'll read this one first. All right. We are on chapter 3. Magic, magicians, wow, said Jack and Annie together inside the crowded fairgrounds. Below the looming Eiffel Tower, a band played a lively march. Fountains shot colored water high in the sky. A small train chugged through the crowd, blowing its whistle. People of all ages from many different countries bustled about in the twilight. Everyone seemed to be having fun, reading from guidebooks, strolling from one exhibit to another, or buying refreshments and souvenirs. We can't see much from here, said Annie. It's hard to know what's going on. What about that little train, said Jack. Maybe we could go ride on it and get a good look at everything. Great idea, said Annie. The train whistle blew again. Over there, said Jack. He pointed to a clear space where passengers were getting off the train and other passengers were boarding. Hurry, said Jack, and they raced to the train and jumped on. Annie dug into her pocket and took out some coins. She held them out to the conductor, and he took a few, and Jack and Annie squeezed into the seats on a wooden bench. The whistle blew and the steam sputtered out of the smokestack, and the small train began to move. Look for anything about magic or magicians, said Jack. As the train slowly chugged through the World's Fair, a tour guide's voice blared from the megaphone. Welcome to the World's Fair sightseeing train. On your ride, you will witness the astounding history of human structures, as seen nowhere else. In every age, buildings had style and beauty. The train chugged by cave dwellings, canvas tents, and huts made of mud. Magic, magicians, Jack thought, as he looked at the different structures. No, no, no. The train passed a cottage, a mansion with columns, and a palace with a huge golden dome. Nope, Jack thought. Now we will visit the first of many lands of the world, said the tour guide. First, Egypt. The train chugged past an outdoor cafe, and smells of grilled cheese and rich coffee filled the air. 3 women with veils over their face danced to flute music. No musicians there. No magicians there, thought Jack. Oh, here is Jack and Annie on the train.
Ooh, that's like light.
Yeah, that does kind of look like the dancing lion from China, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if that means that's where they're stopping off next after Egypt. Next, we will have an African village on the beautiful Serengeti Plain, said the tour guide. They passed a cluster of huts surrounded by tall grass. People played drums and shook gourd rattles. Still no magicians, thought Jack. And now we will visit the New Year's festival in faraway China. Look at that, you were right. That was the New Year's dancing dragon, or lion. It's kind of it's like their lion dragon, right? Mm-hmm. The train chugged by Chinese acrobats and a huge dancing red dragon. Dragons are sort of magic, aren't they? Said Annie, looking back. It's just a couple guys in a costume, said Jack. That doesn't count. On our left is a Muslim mosque, the tour guide said. On the right, a Buddhist temple. Here is an exquisite Japanese garden. No, 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 murmured Jack. The train passed by a show with dolls dressed in outfits from all over the world. It rolled by a giant brown statue of a woman. This amazing creation is the Roman goddess Venus, said the tour guide, made entirely of chocolate. That's amazing, said Annie. It's amazing, but not magic, said Jack. The train rode by a globe of the world at least 3 stories high. The globe was turning slowly. See the lovely mountains, deserts, rivers, and oceans of the earth, said the tour guide. This fair really is a living encyclopedia, Annie said. But the encyclopedia doesn't have what we need to find, said Jack. He sighed and started thumbing through the guidebook. Ah, fantastic, a train passenger said. Shocking, said another. Magical, Jack looked up. Someone said magical. False alarm, said Annie. They're talking about the Eiffel Tower. The train came to a stop and all the passengers were gazing up. Pink lights lit the huge arches at the base of the tower. The Eiffel Tower was built especially for this World's Fair, said the tour guide. The tower is nearly 1,000 feet high, making it the tallest structure in the world today. Some of you may want to leave us here to get a closer look at Paris's newest miracle. People began climbing off the train. Maybe we should get off here too, said Jack. This train isn't much help. Jack and Annie jumped off the train just before its whistle blew and it started moving again. That's a tall tower, said Jack looking up. Really tall, breathed Annie.
It is.
Yeah, because what is it?
It's a tower.
Exactly. Now we are going to read Who Was Alexander Graham Bell? And what do we know about him?
We know that he made the telephone.
Yeah, he invented the telephone. But we haven't actually got there yet here, right? But we know that that's what he did.
Yes.
At 16, Alec felt too old to still be living at home. He thought about packing his bags and running away to become a sailor. But then an ad in the newspaper caught his eye. The Westonhouse Academy in Elgin, Scotland needed a teacher. Actually, the school needed 2 teachers, a music teacher and a speech teacher. Without telling their father, Alec and Melly both applied to the school. But the brothers made one big mistake. They listed their father as a reference on their application. A reference is a person who will say what a wonderful job you do. So who is somebody you would list on a reference, as a reference? So like when you fill out a job application, you have to list a reference, which is somebody who's going to tell them what a wonderful person or applicant you are for that job. So who would you list? They listed their dad. Who would you list? Yeah, but what if you didn't want me to know you applied for the job?
Then I would use my dad, and if I had a little sister, I would do my horses.
A letter came from the Westonhouse Academy to Melville asking for a reference, and at first Melville was furious. How dare his sons go behind his back? But in time, Melville realized that sending his sons away was not really a bad idea. So Melly was sent to the University of Edinburgh for a year, and Alec was sent to Westonhouse Academy to study and teach. Alexander Graham Bell spent the 1863 school year at Weston, and although younger than some of his students, Alec proved to be an excellent teacher. And by the time he returned home that summer, he discovered that his father had invented a new and wonderful way to help teach deaf people to speak. It was called visible speech. Melville and his sons traveled through Scotland to show how visible speech worked, and during demonstrations, Melville would ask one of his sons to leave the room. Then an audience member would say something, a sound, a word, or even a word in maybe even another language. Melville would write it down on the blackboard using visible speech symbols. The boys would come back in the room, read the symbols, and make the sound or word. Alec or Melly got it right every time. Once Alec read the symbols and heard himself making the strange noises, the crowd clapped wildly. Alec had correctly read and copied the sound for sawing wood. The trip got Alec more and more interested in speech. Take vowel sounds, for instance. Some vowel sounds were higher pitched than others. Pitch is a musical term that tells how high or low a sound is. A high pitch has a high number of vibrations. Alec would stand in front of the mirror and pronounce the vowel sounds. He saw the shape of his mouth and throat and created the different pitches for these sounds. For example, when he said an E, it had a higher pitch than when he said an O. And his mouth and throat also moved differently. Alec began thinking about the sounds of words as musical tones. Were they the same in some ways? He started to experiment with tuning forks. A tuning fork is a metal instrument with two prongs shaped like a U. When a tuning fork is hit, it sings out a specific pitch. This is why tuning forks are used to tune musical instruments. The sound that a tuning fork makes sends sound waves into the air. Whenever Alec hit a tuning fork to make it vibrate, he'd sing the pitch that tuning fork made, and Alec put the vibrating tuning fork next to his mouth while he silently mouthed vowel sounds. When one of the vowel sounds made the tuning fork vibrate faster, he knew he had found the vowel's pitch, and he was right. Speech and musical tones were alike. So here's what a tuning fork looks like. Time for you to pick out a picture book. You can pick out whichever picture book you want. Okay. You want to come sit up here and see it, or you want to stay down there and play?
Please.
Okay, that's fine. Alright, so, the things they invented. I'm the cat in the hat, and as everyone knows, I'm a cat who is fond of machines and gizmos. All through human history, since before the year 1, things have been invented to help get stuff done. Tools improve daily life, and I think you will find they are fabulous products of the human mind. The inventors of tools from old and new age will now spring to life in these very pages. If you're ready to meet them, please turn your attention to the super-de-duper-de Invention convention. Gutenberg, who worked with metals like gold, found a way to print books that improved on the old. Before books were copied by hand, this is so, the pace of these scribes was incredibly slow. Or pages were carved out of one wooden block, then inked and pressed down onto paper smooth stock. Gutenberg's metal letters, both capital and small, periods and commas, and colons and all, were laid out word by the page in a tray, locked in and then copied in ink in this way. His printing machine, you'll never will guess, was made from a very old unused wine press. Perhaps young James Watt watched a tea kettle steam, and there got the idea for the steam engine dream. Did you see the effect that boiled water brings? The steam creates power that then can move these things. Water heats in a boiler until it makes steam. Then steam leaves the boiler in a powerful steam stream. It enters a cycle causing pistons to go, but when the steam cools, the pistons will slow. Before Watt's steam engine did not work at all. When the hot steam cooled down, the pistons would stall. Watt took the cooled steam, turned to water by then, and pumped it back to the boiler to heat up again. To separate fibers from cotton plant seeds took many hands picking for long hours indeed. Mr. Whitney's all-new cotton sorting machine turned a slow, dirty job into one quick and clean. The convention's next star, standing right next to me, Daguerre, who helped make the first photography. He based it on a clever and ancient gizmo called the camera obscura, which we will now show. It's a box with a hole, and it makes thing one frown because the image it captures comes out upside down. Another big problem, the image would fade, and that's where the big improvement needed to be made. Slipped into the camera was a copper plate, bathed in iodine crystals. Its power was great. The plate copied an image that no one could see until mercury fumes made it clear as could be. To keep it from smudging, Daguerre was then able to soak it in water plus salt from his table. Before Morris, the mail traveled only by letter. but mail sent by wire moved much faster and better. Pulses of current could work in effect to cause an electromagnet to deflect. The magnet moved an arm that beat out a mode of dashes and dots that we call Morse code. Our Congress approved of Morse code, and what's more, told Morse to string wires from DC to Baltimore. Telegraphs became the latest sensation, and soon telegraph wires linked up the whole nation. Son of deaf mother, Mr. Bell really cared about improving the lives of the hearing impaired. His phonograph used a real human ear to draw sound vibrations the deaf could read but not hear. The gizmo led him to think maybe he could send sounds off of electricity. His assistant, Tom Watson, receiver to ear, heard Bell down the hall transmit sound he could hear. "Watson, come here, I want to see you." Before the tape player or handy CD, phonographs with needles played records, you see. After improving Bell's phone, Edison had the intention of making another telephone invention. It would copy down calls so businesses could track who had called up and who to call back. Just like your ear, a receiver caught sound, copied down by a needle on a cylinder round. In addition to messages, it copied music and song, and became all the rage before very long. A man named Daimler, whom I now mention, made a gas-fed internal combustion engine. He used this engine to power a bicycle, turning it into the first motorcycle. Next, he took a stagecoach and unhitched the horse team, then fit it with an engine. Now, what was his scheme? The wheels spun around, and experts all feel this was the first four-wheel automobile. When motorized airplanes had all so far failed, the Wright brothers felt that they had the deal nailed. Making wings shaped for flight was the Wrights' fondest goal, to allow for balance and flying control. A movable rudder that fit on the rear was added to help the brothers to steer. On a hill in Kitty Hawk, after many a try, Wilbur one day set out to fly. And 852 feet in the air Wilbur flew. He made like the birds and made history too. Once streetcar drivers in the rain and the snow had to lean out the window to see where to go. Mary Anderson drew up, and then she made an arm on a spring with a smooth rubber blade. The driver pulled a lever to make the blade go and sweep off the rain and the slush and the snow. What invention does that sound like?
Or snow trucks?
No, not a snow truck, because it's only going on the window. It's a rubber blade on the window that you pull a lever and it wipes off the rain and the snow.
I don't really know.
We'll think about out of a car. What wipes the rain off of the window of a car?
Wipers?
Yep, that's what it was. See?
Oh yeah, I forgot, sorry.
Yeah, the wiper. You're just not used to snow because we don't get it here. Thing one just told me a thing you should know. Our street traffic signals once were just stop and go. At busy intersections, as you might well guess, accidents would happen, making quite a big mess. But Garrett Morgan thought it was a must to give all these drivers some time to adjust. A signal could say, in a moment or so, you're expected to stop or expected to go. He invented a signal that paused halfway between go and stop, kind of like a yellow light today. All right, number 3.
When was the first telephone invented? The 1700s, the 1800s, or the 1900s?
The 1800s. Thank you.
Should I roll again?
Yeah, you can roll again if you want.
Yeah, don't want.
Okay, the telescope. Were the first telescopes used to observe objects on the ground or objects in outer space?
Outer space.
Wrong. On the ground.
Why?
I don't know. We'll have to look that one up later. It just says on the ground, so we can. Here, we'll set that one to the side, and we'll look up why they used them for on the ground later.